Relationships are complex. They are tapestries woven from countless threads of emotion, experience, and memory. But what happens when those memories become skewed? What happens when the stories we tell ourselves about our past relationships are colored by our current perceptions of strength and weakness? This is the heart of the matter when it comes to breakups and the often warped narratives that emerge in their aftermath. We all like to believe that we remember things accurately. We trust our brains to store and recall information objectively, like impartial recorders of our lives. However, the truth is far more nuanced. Our memories are not static records, but rather malleable narratives, constantly being shaped and reshaped by our present circumstances, feelings, and self-perceptions. This is particularly true when it comes to romantic relationships, where emotions run high, and our sense of self is deeply intertwined with the narrative we construct. The way we remember a relationship, especially its demise, is often less about what actually happened and more about how we choose to frame it. This framing is heavily influenced by our current emotional state and, importantly, by our perceived strength or weakness within the relationship. When we feel strong and confident, we tend to remember events in a way that supports this self-image. Conversely, when we feel weak or insecure, our memories often shift to align with these feelings, even if it means distorting the past. This phenomenon of memory distortion is not necessarily a conscious or malicious act. It's a subconscious mechanism that protects our egos and helps us make sense of painful or confusing experiences. By attributing blame, exaggerating flaws, or minimizing our own contributions to the relationship's downfall, we shield ourselves from the full brunt of the emotional fallout. However, while this self-preservation tactic might offer temporary comfort, it ultimately hinders our ability to learn, grow, and move forward in healthy ways. The concept of perceived strength plays a pivotal role in shaping relationship narratives, particularly for women. Societal expectations often place a premium on women's strength and resilience, especially in the face of romantic turmoil. This pressure to maintain a facade of strength can unconsciously influence how women remember and retell their relationship histories, often leading to a skewed perception of events. Think about how often you've heard a woman recount a past relationship with a dismissive, "Oh, him? I hardly think about him anymore." This seemingly blasé attitude, while potentially genuine in some cases, can also be a defense mechanism, a way of projecting strength and indifference to mask lingering hurt or insecurity. By downplaying the significance of the relationship and her former partner, she reinforces her own narrative of strength and resilience. This tendency to rewrite history through a lens of strength is not limited to casual conversations. It can manifest in more subtle ways, coloring everything from therapeutic discussions to personal reflections. A woman might emphasize her partner's flaws or minimize her own emotional investment in the relationship, subtly shifting the narrative to paint herself as the stronger, more independent party. This subconscious editing of the past serves to protect her self-esteem and maintain a sense of control in the face of emotional upheaval. While this inclination to project strength might seem harmless on the surface, it can have profound implications for a woman's emotional well-being and future relationships. By clinging to a distorted narrative, she avoids confronting uncomfortable truths about herself and the relationship, hindering personal growth and preventing her from fully processing the experience. This can lead to a cycle of unhealthy relationship patterns and an inability to form truly authentic connections. Breakups are often catalysts for memory distortion. The emotional upheaval of a split can trigger a subconscious need to protect our egos and preserve our sense of self-worth. This is where the rewriting of relationship history often begins, with each party subtly shifting the narrative to favor their own perspective. Imagine a couple, Sarah and Mark, going through a painful breakup. In the aftermath, Sarah might emphasize Mark's possessiveness and controlling behavior, highlighting instances where he limited her social life or questioned her choices. These memories, while potentially true, might become magnified in her mind, serving as evidence to justify her decision to end the relationship and reinforce her narrative of independence. Mark, on the other hand, might recall Sarah's emotional distance and lack of affection in the months leading up to the breakup. He might emphasize her focus on her career or her growing disinterest in their shared activities. These memories, filtered through his own hurt and confusion, paint him as the more invested partner, the one who fought for the relationship until the bitter end. Neither Sarah nor Mark is necessarily lying. They are simply remembering the relationship through the lens of their own pain and their need to preserve a sense of self-worth. This clash of narratives, however, highlights the subjectivity of memory and the powerful influence of perception on how we process and recall past events. The danger of these skewed narratives is that they prevent honest reflection and genuine learning. By clinging to a version of events that absolves us of responsibility or exaggerates our partner's flaws, we miss out on valuable insights into our own behavior and the dynamics that contributed to the relationship's demise. There's a fascinating psychological phenomenon at play in these skewed narratives: the weakness bias. This bias refers to our tendency to remember and overemphasize negative information, particularly when it comes to evaluating ourselves and others. In the context of relationships, this bias can lead us to focus on our partner's shortcomings and downplay their positive qualities, especially after a breakup. This bias is particularly pronounced when we feel our own sense of strength is threatened. When we experience the emotional blow of a breakup, our instinct is often to protect our ego and maintain a sense of self-worth. One way we do this is by magnifying our ex-partner's flaws, essentially building them up as the bad guy to justify our own actions and feelings. For example, a woman who prides herself on her independence and self-sufficiency might be more likely to remember her ex-partner's clinginess or need for reassurance. These memories, while potentially accurate, might become exaggerated in her mind, serving to reinforce her narrative of strength and self-reliance. By emphasizing his perceived weakness, she implicitly bolsters her own sense of strength and independence. This weakness bias is not limited to romantic relationships. We see it play out in friendships, familial relationships, and even professional settings. When we feel threatened or insecure, our brains tend to latch on to negative information, exaggerating flaws and minimizing positive attributes. This negativity bias serves as a defense mechanism, protecting our egos and preserving our sense of self-worth. However, this tendency to focus on weakness, particularly in our partners, can be incredibly damaging. It creates a distorted view of the relationship, preventing us from acknowledging our own contributions to its demise and hindering our ability to learn and grow from the experience. Section 5. Hollywood's take reinforcing gendered narratives. Popular culture, particularly Hollywood films, often perpetuates gendered narratives that reinforce these memory biases. Think about classic romantic comedies. How often do we see the female protagonist emerge from a breakup stronger and more independent, while the male character is left heartbroken and pining for her return? These narratives, while entertaining, can subtly shape our understanding of relationships and influence how we remember our own experiences. They reinforce the idea that women are expected to win the breakup, emerging stronger and more desirable, while men are often relegated to the role of the heartbroken and somewhat pathetic ex. Consider the iconic scene in Legally Blonde, where Ella Woods, after being dumped by her seemingly perfect boyfriend, channels her heartbreak into acing law school. While empowering on the surface, this narrative subtly reinforces the idea that a woman's worth is tied to her ability to bounce back from romantic setbacks and achieve success in other areas of her life. Similarly, films often depict men struggling to cope with breakups, resorting to stereotypical behaviors like excessive drinking, moping, or desperately trying to win back their exes. These portrayals, while intended for comedic effect, can perpetuate harmful stereotypes about men's emotional capacity and their supposed inability to handle heartbreak with grace and maturity. These gendered narratives, while seemingly harmless entertainment, can subtly influence our expectations and behaviors in relationships. They perpetuate the idea that women should strive for post-breakup strength and independence, while men are expected to wallow in sadness and regret. Section 6. Beyond the silver screen, everyday examples of memory manipulation. These narratives aren't confined to Hollywood. We see them play out in our daily lives, shaping the stories we tell ourselves and others about our past relationships. Think about the last time you heard a friend recount a breakup. Did their story emphasize their own strength and resilience, subtly or overtly downplaying their ex-partner's positive qualities? These narratives are particularly common in social settings, where there's often an unspoken pressure to present ourselves in a favorable light. We want our friends and family to see us as strong, capable individuals who have moved on from past relationships unscathed. This desire for social validation can unconsciously influence how we remember and retell our relationship histories. For example, a woman might tell her friends about her ex-partner's controlling behavior, emphasizing instances where he questioned her choices or limited her social life. While these memories might be rooted in truth, they might become exaggerated or selectively recalled to fit the narrative of her being a strong, independent woman who escaped a stifling relationship. Similarly, a man might recount his ex-partner's emotional volatility or tendency to overreact, conveniently omitting his own contributions to those conflicts. This selective memory allows him to maintain a sense of self-righteousness and paint himself as the more stable and reasonable party in the relationship. These everyday examples highlight how deeply ingrained these memory biases are in our social fabric. We are constantly bombarded with messages, both subtle and overt, that encourage us to view relationships through a lens of strength and weakness, particularly in the aftermath of a breakup. This constant reinforcement of these narratives can make it challenging to untangle the truth of our past relationships and gain a clear understanding of our own roles and responsibilities. Section 7, The Perils of Self-Deception, How Biased Memories Hurt Us. While rewriting history to favor our ego might offer temporary comfort, it ultimately hinders our emotional growth and prevents us from forming healthier relationships in the future. By clinging to distorted narratives, we avoid confronting uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the dynamics that contributed to the relationship's demise. This self-deception can manifest in various ways. We might convince ourselves that we were never truly invested in the relationship, minimizing our own hurt and vulnerability, or we might overemphasize our ex-partner's flaws, painting them as solely responsible for the breakup and absolving ourselves of any accountability. This inability to acknowledge our own role in the relationship's downfall can lead to a cycle of unhealthy patterns. We carry our unresolved emotional baggage into new relationships, often repeating the same mistakes and attracting partners who reflect our unresolved issues. For example, a woman who consistently downplays her own emotional needs and emphasizes her ex-partner's inadequacies might find herself repeatedly drawn to emotionally unavailable partners. This pattern stems from her inability to acknowledge her own role in the relationship dynamic and her fear of fully investing in a partner who might challenge her carefully constructed narrative of strength and independence. Section 8, Reclaiming Your Narrative, Choosing Strength, Choosing Truth. So how do we break free from this cycle of memory distortion and reclaim our relationship narratives? It starts with understanding that true strength lies not in denying our vulnerability, but in acknowledging it. It's about recognizing that relationships are complex, messy endeavors, and that both parties inevitably contribute to their successes and failures. Reclaiming your narrative requires a conscious effort to challenge your own biases and examine your memories through a more objective lens. It means asking yourself tough questions. Are you exaggerating your ex-partner's flaws to minimize your own hurt? Are you selectively remembering events to fit a particular narrative? Are you avoiding responsibility for your own actions and contributions to the relationship's demise? This process of self-reflection can be uncomfortable, even painful at times. It requires vulnerability and a willingness to confront aspects of ourselves that we might prefer to keep hidden. However, this willingness to delve into the messy complexities of our past relationships is essential for growth and healing. Choosing truth over ego protection means acknowledging that relationships are a two-way street. It means recognizing that both parties bring their own baggage, insecurities, and communication patterns to the table. It means accepting that breakups are rarely the result of one person's actions, but rather a culmination of choices, compromises, and miscommunications. Section 9, The Power of Self-Awareness, Owning Your Story, Owning Your Growth. Self-awareness is paramount in this journey of reclaiming your narrative. It's about understanding your own emotional triggers, your attachment style, and your communication patterns. It's about recognizing how your past experiences, both positive and negative, have shaped your beliefs about relationships and your expectations of others. One powerful tool for cultivating self-awareness is journaling. Take some time to reflect on your past relationships, writing down your memories, feelings, and observations. As you write, try to adopt a non-judgmental stance, approaching your memories with curiosity rather than judgment. Ask yourself, what were the strengths and weaknesses of the relationship? What role did I play in the dynamics that unfolded? What were my unmet needs and expectations? What lessons can I learn from this experience? Sharing your story with a trusted friend, therapist, or support group can also be incredibly valuable. Talking through your experiences with an objective listener can provide new perspectives, challenge your biases, and help you gain a clearer understanding of your own patterns and behaviors. Remember that self-awareness is not about self-criticism. It's about approaching your past with compassion and understanding, acknowledging both your strengths and areas for growth. Section 10, a new perspective, moving forward with clarity and confidence. Reclaiming your narrative is not about rewriting history to fit a particular agenda. It's about acknowledging the truth of your experiences, both the good and the bad, and integrating those lessons into a more holistic understanding of yourself and your relationship patterns. When you approach your past relationships with honesty and self-awareness, you empower yourself to make healthier choices in the future. You learn to identify red flags, communicate your needs more effectively, and set boundaries that protect your emotional well-being. Remember that you are not defined by your past relationships. Every experience, regardless of how painful, offers an opportunity for growth and transformation. By choosing to embrace the truth of your story, you empower yourself to break free from unhealthy patterns and create a future filled with love, respect, and authentic connection.